This is the Annie Fry Show.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Annie Fry Show. Good to be with you. I got to take a little vacation with my family. It was a bit of a Christmas gift for my kids, and we got to cash in on that this past weekend. So thank you for giving me that time to spend with my family. But I'm very excited to be back talking to you about a busy news day in politics. The New Hampshire primary is taking place tonight, and there's a lot that could be determined quickly after this primary is over this evening. Maybe the status quo remains beyond this result of voting that we're going to be able to see from the second installment of the primary process. But I don't know. And I'm excited to talk about it today. I also know that the news that Ron DeSantis has dropped out isn't brand new information to you. I was enjoying lovely time off with my family in the state of Florida when I got the news that Ron DeSantis had dropped out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today as well, just to get you my thoughts on it and to get your reaction as well. But I think that there's something that needs to be talked about even more so than the specifics of just this day in the timeline of our March to November. We have 287 days left until the election actually takes place. And my question has been repeatedly leading up to this point, if is it possible that Donald Trump can actually win the general election? And on the whole, the majority of you, when asked that question, usually on our YouTube live chat poll, have said, yes, he can win. But it's not a resounding yes. It's not a convincing yes. Most of the time when we have that conversation, there's just there's a percentage of people who would maybe, let's just say, be in play for candidate B other than Joe Biden. We know what the status quo is. We know what we're going to get from Joe Biden 4 more years, so much so that he's not out there campaigning even to try to convince you otherwise in any way, shape, or form. We know what we're going to get from the current president should he get 4 more years. And in fact, I would say based on polling that refers to the favorability of Joe Biden, the thought about Joe Biden's acuity, his ability to perform the job, his ability to understand and comprehend the tasks that are in front of him, those poll numbers for Joe Biden are not great. So at best, if you're somebody who is of liberal mind, you're thinking you're going to get 4 more years of what we've had. But I think everybody is paying attention close enough to understand we might not get that. We're going to get a deterioration of that. And then the question is, who pulls the strings in the background for Joe Biden while he continues to be the face of the administration? The question at hand is which candidate B can beat Joe Biden? And of course, in a primary, that's what we're deciding on a state-by-state basis. Who do we want to choose to go up against Joe Biden, the incumbent president of the United States from the Democrat Party? And in Iowa, 50% of the people plus said Donald Trump. What did he get? Like 53,000 votes? It's not a lot of people making a resounding statement, but it is a high percentage of people. It is a fact-based poll.
Yeah, it is a fact-based poll with a large sample size, even though that's not a lot of people in Iowa. But that's a large sample size that gives you an idea of where people are. And what's interesting is he won every county except for one, and the one apparently he only lost by 1 vote. And that was the county that Democrats were swapping over to Republicans, and they ran out of the little swap papers, so they had to print more.
Yeah. If they'd have had more readily available, maybe he would have lost by like 10 votes.
10, yeah.
I don't know that Iowa is a reflection of the entire country. I think Iowa is a reflection of a region. I think that you could put a lot of states in the Iowa category, but I don't think that Iowa is a reflection of what's going on in California or New York. I don't think Iowa is a reflection of what's going on in Oregon. I also don't think that Iowa is necessarily a reflection of what's going on in Texas and in Florida, which are Republican strongholds. So we have to ask ourselves, do we look at Iowa and go, yeah, that's the barometer, that's moving forward, that this is how it's going to be? I do think that I think it was Huckabee, Governor Huckabee, that said Iowa doesn't tell you who the president is going to be. It tells you who the president is not going to be. And I think that that's where Ron DeSantis saw the tea leaves and read them correctly. I put this out on Twitter the night of the Iowa caucus that I really wish in the speech that Ron DeSantis gave after the Iowa caucus, I really wish he would have said, listen, I put all my chips in this pot. It didn't materialize. This is not the time for me to take up this responsibility because the American people are saying we're not done with Trump yet. I watch the reaction to Ron DeSantis's concession and suspension of his campaign. And I'm noticing a few very interesting things, including from Donald Trump himself, that people aren't nearly as mad at Ron DeSantis as they pretended to be, or as maybe they felt that they were when he was still in the race. And I've been trying to kind of analyze myself how the DeSantis campaign failed to launch the way I had hoped that it would launch. And I'll tell you this, and you could probably go back and bore yourself and listen to me talking about Ron DeSantis in June of 2020, because that was when I first started paying close attention to him. June of 2020 was when I escaped with my family to Florida to go visit my brother-in-law and their family that lived on the coast, because Ron DeSantis said, we're opening Florida again, and we're going to allow people to make their own decisions. Threw the family in the car, drove to Florida. We made the plans the same week that we left. And when Ron DeSantis was going so against the grain at that time, he really got my attention. And I realized, him being as young as he is, at the time in his early 40s, that this guy, if he keeps this up, he's going to have an incredibly bright political future, which I don't really care about. I don't care about Ron DeSantis's political future. I care about the future of the country. I care about the idea that what America is protected. I care about the idea that there are people that continue to exist in new generations that want to protect the same thing that was fortified when the Declaration of Independence was signed and the Constitution was formulated and signed. I care that we still have new people coming onto the scene who can fight for the same type of freedom, basic ideas that we formed this country over centuries ago. And Ron DeSantis was, for me, the first real convincing that I had that there was somebody who was in my generation. I don't know if he would be considered a millennial. I think he'd be right on the border. Is he born late 70s?
Yeah, he'd still technically be Gen X, but like
he's close
to us.
Yeah. He was somebody who showed me that the idea of freedom and liberty and small government, that still exists, and it's not an old man idea. It's not something that old guys in powdered wigs and clothes that nobody wears anymore. It's not just this ancient concept that exists that is unattainable to us. It's real, and it's alive, it's living, and it's being carried on with great measurable evidentiary success in 2020, at least in Florida, because what a contrast that was to the home state that I live in and the tyrant J.B. Pritzker and the way he controlled the people of the state. The stark contrast was impressed upon me, and it was very meaningful to me. I understand that that's not everybody's experience with Ron DeSantis. I know that we have a ton of people living or listening to this station right now who live in Missouri, and your understanding of freedom and liberty is just, let me say, more refined than the voters seem on the whole in Illinois to perpetuate each election cycle. I know what I don't have because I see other people who have it, and it seems attainable, and I question why in this state of Illinois don't we have this type of conviction to protecting and maintaining our freedoms. And the truth is on the whole, this country is in the same position. Why do we as a country not understand The idea and the fragility of the freedoms that only exist if we, the people, protect them, because we don't get them from the government. They are ours by nature of our existence. And it's exciting to me to know that there are future generations, which include mine, that want to fight for it and have proven that it is the preferable way of existing, especially in this country. So when Ron DeSantis dropped out, I got to say, I wasn't even sad. As somebody who has been a supporter of Ron DeSantis's, but from years before he announced his candidacy for the presidency, I wasn't really sad because what he did was the right thing. Dropping out was the right thing. And going back to my question about how did Ron DeSantis' campaign have such a failure to launch? You have to take yourself back to when he launched his campaign. You have to remember the temperature, the climate that existed when Ron DeSantis said, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. And when you start to think about what the political landscape looked like then, when Ron DeSantis decided to step into the race, we needed Ron DeSantis to step in the race.
Well, I would say a couple of things about it. One is there's a lot of talk now about he did this wrong and that wrong in the campaign and didn't get off to a good start in the media strategy. I think all of that had very little to do with the outcome. I think the outcome came down to one thing, and that is that there is a reservoir of voters in the Republican Party who were going to vote for Donald Trump if they had the chance. It was obscured by polling for about a year ago that suggested that he could be beaten and that Ron DeSantis could beat him. But once he got indicted, on a sketchy indictment in New York, the sentiment for him woke up. And I don't think that either he or really any DeSantis or any other candidate ever really had a chance against that. These Republicans want this man, and they're voting for him.
And Ron DeSantis acknowledged that. Rightfully so, because Ron DeSantis voters are Trump voters. And I think we're going to see that tonight in the results of the New Hampshire primary. Ron DeSantis got in the race when the situation was very different. The circumstances were drastically different than they were after court case after court case after court case and blue city after blue city after blue city decided to pile on top of the collusion assertions, of the impeachment allegations and processes, of all of the attacks and the lies that have surrounded Donald Trump really from day one. They materialize in the lawfare that is taking place against Trump today. I don't think that Donald Trump is 100% innocent in every single instance of all of the court cases that he's facing right now. I think that there are things that he should have done better. But I cannot be convinced in a single one of these cases that if Donald Trump were replaced with Bill Clinton, with Barack Obama, with Joe Biden, that name and that political party would protect them from the lawfare that is being imposed upon Donald Trump right now. And that is what America has seen. And that is why America said, no, Ron DeSantis, it's not your time. We're behind Trump. So now we need Donald Trump to win. I don't know what Nikki Haley is going to do tonight. If she pulls out a victory, I think that changes the narrative a little bit. But short of winning tonight, she should drop out. She won't. But I think that it's pretty amazing that in the short span of a couple of weeks here, we've seen the Republican Party come together in a way that is absolutely necessary. Should Donald Trump face off against Joe Biden or any other Democratic candidate that might replace Joe Biden on that ticket, if that's even still a possibility. We've seen the Republican Party come together. There are a few stragglers out there who still, at this point, want to talk about Ron DeSantis' loyalty. Those folks are not going to be the ones who decide the election. Understanding that Ron DeSantis stepped down and endorsed Trump shows that this party can be united, showing that Nikki Haley's support is coming largely from people who are moderates to, on the left, active voting Democrats, gives us two opponents to unite behind. Joe Biden and the people who constantly want to make the Republican Party the light version of what the Democrats do in the swamp every day. And Donald Trump's the guy who's going to have to do it. And the one thing, going back to the very beginning of what I said about Donald Trump, knowing what he's been up against this entire time, is Donald Trump capable of doing what he needs to do to win? Because Donald Trump of 2016 and Donald Trump of 2020, neither one of those two gentlemen can win this race. We need the refined version of Donald Trump 2024, the one who has learned from where he has been and has used it to make himself the very best candidate for American voters to consider as the absolute candidate B alternative to 4 more years of Joe Biden or whatever comes with him. The YouTube live chat poll for today: has Donald Trump become a better campaigner? I want to know from you what you think. Yes or no? If you go to the Annie Fry YouTube channel, right there, you can vote and tell us what you think. If you've seen things, I've seen things that make me go raise an eyebrow. I'm not putting my chips in the middle of the table quite yet because I need consistency. I need him to string together a few of these opportunities. I'm wondering if you think that he's done that. Go to the Annie Fry YouTube channel and vote.